Hi everybody and welcome back to Love English. So today I have a lesson for you all about 5 different ways to give advice. We all sometimes need a little bit of advice from friends or family or our partners, and in English we have lots of different ways, lots of different language that we use to give advice. So are you ready to learn? Let's get started. So the first verb I'm going to teach you is the modal verb should. Now this is a very common verb and it means when something is a strong suggestion or a strong recommendation. And it has no past or present or future form because it is a modal verb, meaning it goes with whatever other verbs are in the sentence, and from that we can tell if it is the past, the present or the future. But we use should for when we think someone should really do that thing. We're giving them a strong recommendation. For example, if you say, oh, I felt sick for a week, your friend might say, oof, you should go and see the doctor. Or if you have a situation where maybe you didn't study hard enough and you didn't pass an exam, your parents will probably say, oh, you should have studied harder. Now in this case we have the past. You should have studied harder. So we've got a past use of the verb should there. Another verb we can use for advice is the verb could. Now could is saying that the thing is a possibility. It's not saying that I really think you should do it. I'm suggesting to you one of the possible options you have in your situation. So all you English learners out there, if you're worrying about your English and you're feeling like you would like to learn more and you want to improve your confidence, you could watch some of our videos. Or you could watch some other YouTube channels. Or you could go and enroll in English classes. These are all options for you. However, they're not strong recommendations, they're only options. If I was to give you a stronger recommendation, I would say you should subscribe to Love English. Grammar point. Now, this is particularly for my students because you've made this mistake many times, so you know that I'm talking to you. Should and modal verbs in general have to be followed by an infinitive without to, which we call the bare infinitive. For example, the case we looked at before, she should go to the doctor. She should go. She should go. So here we have go but without to. Now, if I was to put this in the past, this would be she should have gone. So as I said earlier, we can have the past form of the modal verb, but here we put it with present perfect, but it does not change. So there was no changing for the third person. So we can't say she should has gone. So although it looks like present perfect, it's not technically the present perfect because it doesn't change in the third person. So it's he should have gone, she should have gone, I should have gone, we should have gone. So it's all like that. If we use another verb, for example, we could say she didn't pass her English test. So if we look in the past here, we could say she should have studied harder. She should have studied harder. Now, a little bit stronger. This is something that parents often say to their children. So it's a little bit stronger than should, and it's also a little bit posher. So it's used a little bit more by people who are a bit posh. Ought to. Ought to. So, for example, your parents might say to you, oh, you ought to tidy your room. It's a mess. You ought to tidy. Or another example might be, oh, you really ought to learn to drive. I can't give you lifts all the time everywhere. You ought to learn to drive. So here, this is a stronger form than should. It's something that we really think you need to do. So it's a very strong recommendation. You ought to. Now, very similar to ought to is had better. And it's important to point out that when we say had better, we push the subject, so I, you, we, she, together with had to become ud. So I'd better, you'd better, we'd better. We push them together with a contraction and we don't say had. So it's strong recommendation. I'd better pay my council tax. Oh, I'd better lose some weight. You'd better call your mum tomorrow. Again, strong recommendations, similar to should, but the next stage up, so more like ought to. So a very common way to give advice is using the form of the second conditional. Now, in another lesson, our lovely teacher Leila gave a fantastic explanation of the second conditional. So if you still can't understand the tricky second conditional, go and watch her video at the end of this lesson. Now, the second conditional is used for advice for when we are imagining what we would do in that person's situation. So we are not them, but we're imagining what we would do if we were. So for example, we can say, you know, if I were you, I'd break up with that guy. Or if I were you, I'd eat less chocolate. I say that to Leila a lot. Last one, how about? Now this is a relaxed way to suggest giving advice. We can say, if a friend says to us, oh, you know, I really don't know what to do this evening. You can say, how about you go for a run? Or how about you chill out and watch a film? It's a casual way to make suggestions. So it's not a strong recommendation, so it's not like should or had better or ought to, it's just a suggestion. So I suggest to you, how about you watch some more of our videos? You don't have to, but I think it's a good idea. So they were 6 ways to give advice in English. So we had should, we had ought to, we had could, we had you'd better or I had better, and we had the second conditional, if I were you or if I was you, and then we had how about. Now stay tuned because Leila and I are going to have a natural conversation where we're using this language in action. So if you want to listen to a natural English conversation where we're giving each other advice, keep watching. Right. Oh Leila, what's the matter? I've never seen you like this.
My boyfriend's broken up with me.
What?
I know.
When did this happen?
Yesterday.
Oh no, why did he break up with you?
I think he's stupid.
No.
Yeah, he said my cooking wasn't good.
He said your cooking wasn't good?
Yeah.
Wow, did you give him a bad stomach or something?
No, he just doesn't like fish and chips.
Oh. Oh no, so what do you want? Do you want to get back with him?
I don't know, maybe I need an Englishman that likes fish and chips. What should I do?
Well, do you really want him back?
Well, I really like fish and chips. Take it seriously, I need advice.
Okay, if I were you, I wouldn't call him. If I were you, I wouldn't call him.
Okay.
How about you leave it for a couple of days?
Yeah.
And then see if he texts you, which
Okay.
I'm sure he will.
I can.
But if I were you, I wouldn't get in touch with him.
No.
I mean, you could maybe have a look on his Facebook and double check that he's not found someone else.
Yeah, I should do that.
Yeah, you could.
I should do that.
I don't know if you should, but you could. I'm a bit worried because if he's found someone else, what will you do?
I'll kill them. What's wrong, Sabrah?
I'm stupid.
I wouldn't go that far.
I am.
Oh dear, you're getting a bit snotty.
I didn't pass my English test.
Oh dear. Did you study hard enough?
I thought I did, but my teacher Leila, she said I was not working hard enough. She's very strict.
She sounds very sensible. Well, maybe you ought to retake the test again.
Do you think I can?
Yeah, I'm sure you can. Yeah, no, you ought to take the test again. And you ought to study a bit harder.
Everybody in the class will think I'm stupid.
Well, you'd better work harder then, hadn't you? I'm sure you can do it.
Okay, maybe I can try.
Have you been studying every evening?
Well, I've been a bit distracted lately.
By what?
I've been going out a lot.
Well, you can't do that, Sabrah. You had better focus and study this month and do the exam next month.
Okay, thank you, Leila.
You're welcome.
I'll try. Have you got any books that could help me?
Well, actually, funny enough, I have a really great first certificate book.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Yay.
You ought to study that every evening.
Okay.